Villains, I know how you feel. You know, guys, we came from a place of change. And I know that there's been a lot of changes since, and there always will be, but something that was a little bit different for people our age, which is going to be 30s and older, really, is that during the 70s, a lot of major changes occurred. And during that time, there was the entire development of drugs. From the beginning of the flower children arriving into town, to the cocaine, to the meth, to the heroin, and as you can see, it's completely evolved. Before our time, people might have had disagreements, and there was a lot of terrible things that occurred. So if we look back along history, there was not much organization until, honestly, our generation was really born. So we were born into a really just like an evolution of change, horror, war, confusion, and creation. And, you know, whether people were creating digital to online to mental health to laws, there wasn't any before that. People were getting prosecuted by being hung and killed and murdered and raped. And it wasn't even until 1983 that they established the law that you couldn't have sex with a child or a minor. For many years, a lot of people have been under the influence of society and shame and what people should or shouldn't be. And it began, you know, with Martin Luther King and just a lot of different people taking a stand and saying, I don't think this is correct, you know. And these people were targeted in horrible ways. During those times, as you saw, most people didn't take a stand, unfortunately. They were under a lot of fear. A lot of what you see coming from typically that parent that you lack that connection with, that demanding control, lack of connection, and just an ongoing battle within yourself, really just wondering like if you did something wrong as a child and why you didn't really deserve or get the love that you just lack in your heart. And I want you to know that everybody's different. They are able to understand things, you know, at different paces. And the best thing that you can really do if you're somebody who's struggling with those things is just like figure out like maybe like what was going on during those timelines. And, you know, during our parents' age, I'm 36, and during our parents' age, there's a lot going on, you know. It's when rock and roll was developed and Dre and everybody came out with, you know, quite a bit different music, as you saw. Marilyn Monroe and Elvis began to popularize drugs and prostitution and beauty, and it went from people being well-dressed as well, like pilgrim-wise, and serving their man and having children to being beautiful and being accessories, and they still were property of their men, but they were becoming beautiful. When the hippies became a thing, they pretty much took a stand for the rebels and broke free of following rules. Hippies and the rock and roll, definitely the rebel evolution, beginning of it. I mean, Elvis and Marilyn, in my opinion, looking back, definitely were a game changer. And they were not that far along ago, guys. 1983 was the year my sister was born, and I was born in 87. So it wasn't until 4 years before I was born that they actually had an epiphany that you shouldn't fuck a kid. This is what we're dealing with here, okay, guys? As times change and circumstances arise and new drugs and situations happen, all that people can really do is kind of like log it. And you should be doing the same thing, because this is our time now. And basically what's going to happen if we don't pay attention to what is happening and how it's changing, life is not just here. It's not this way. It's ever changing. You can see already that even I myself did not have a Facebook until 26 years old. So, I mean, there was still black and white Addams Family when I was little, and there was no flat screens, and there was no smartphones. I remember Tiffany. She was the first one that got a smartphone that I knew. I did not even get a phone until I literally was over 20. I was like 20 at least, I don't know, maybe 19, 20 or something like that. And it was, when we were growing up, we had Discmans and we had a Walkman, and I remember going from a Walkman to a Discman, and, then it went to an iPod, and now it's an iPad, and, we didn't have Game Boys, we had Gigapets and shit, and it's just like, it's how it's going to be. It's how it's always going to be. And so something that I did not know while I was younger was that I knew that how people were living their life wasn't a way that I wanted to live, but I had no idea that literally Martin Luther King and Hillary Clinton were literally just pretty much yesterday. I'll tell you, I watched a documentary about Trump and Obama and Hillary, and it talked a lot about their background. I'm not gonna lie, I totally fucking forgot Obama, but I do love Obama because I don't know anything much about Obama, but I know these things. Him and his family have the best customer and public service demeanor. And I appreciate that from Obama. There was nothing that anybody ever said to him that made his face look like, fuck you, bitch. He never did that. And as a professional, that's something that we are asked to do and trained to do and encouraged to do. And we're encouraged not to vent about problems and not talk about government or, religion, or basically touch on subjects that can cause disruption, in the workplace, basically. But, and some people can do that. Some people have this ability about them to just maintain their professionalism at all times, and I've gone back and forth with it myself. But Hillary had parents, and I've told this stories before, but maybe you didn't hear it, but it just kind of goes with this. But I was just a little bit amazed. A lot of it, more like, but I'm going to a documentary nerd. If you come over to my house, I'm probably going to watch something about Shark Week or aliens, or I don't even know, I'm dork. But Hillary literally had alcoholic and abusive parents, and I don't remember hearing anything about them necessarily abusing her, but they were constantly fighting and drinking and abusing each other in front of her, and she hated it. She hated it. She, as most people know, everything skips pretty much a generation, except for twins. They don't, because I got twins. My sister has twins, and my mom has twins, so I hope you have triplets. Somebody else needs to go down with me. I was not expecting that shit. They said, "Oh my God, it's a miracle. Oh, Nancy, look at that." I said, "What's a fucking miracle?" And they were like, "There's 2 babies in there." I said, "Check again. Check, no. Unplug the fucking monitor for 10 seconds and then plug it back in and do it again." It was a rainy day that day, and I had no fucking heater, or, I had no defroster. I had nothing. So it was foggy, and it was raining. It was pouring ass rain. I was in this old ass 1983, actually, Ford Zephyr that possibly caught on fire that day on the way home, but I don't feel like it did, because I feel like it caught on fire on the way there a different day. Anyways, during that time, alcohol was the thing, and marijuana, and cocaine. So, as you guys even remember, during, your time growing up, different things were really, really, really taboo. And then there was things that were acceptable. So, of course, alcohol goes on. And then the flower children come into town. And the hippies take over. And the rebels and the rock and roll. And it literally goes from like the Beatles. And just like that slow, I got you, babe. And that sounds romantic, but now as an older person, I could see him sweating balls. Elvis is sweating fucking balls, bro. Like, I got you, babe. Look, like, he's so fucking handsome. I don't know why I didn't notice that younger, but like, as you mature, you're gonna start seeing things just like you do in the Disney movies when they're like, yeah, you fucking like my asshole. And you're like, and you like look over and your kids don't even know. And you're like, I can't even believe I never noticed that. It's mine. It's like right in front of your face type shit. And like, you just don't notice. But, obviously, the alcohol is first. And so when the flower children come in town, everybody's freaking out. And the cocaine is actually man-made. Back then, things are very pure. Just like the pearls, the diamonds, the rubies, every bit of gold, it's pure. It's beautiful. I mean, if you didn't notice, like in the Great Gatsby movies, they're wearing fucking ginormous diamond necklaces that I think they stole from my country, Atlantis, and I want them back. So we'll deal with that later. Mermaids, it's fine. I'll deal with it. They gave me feet. But when I was young, and then meth evolved, the coke and the meth, goes into competition basically at that time. And as you guys know, alcoholics are like, oh yeah, we're AA and you're NA, and people are dividing and they're separating. But this has always been a thing. I mean, even clear back to whoever the fuck made up the fucking Eve ate an apple that a snake spoke to her to eat. Who the fuck would you believe this? So you're going to tell me, this is the shit they're telling you. And I have never in my life actually questioned any of those stories. And many people have been so kind to me, and they were like, Tara, just, I'm not saying, I'm like, don't you ever fuck disrespect God. But as I thought about it, the Mormons, I started off Christian, and like, all these religions come about, and everybody's dividing and separating them, and they're starting their own cults and their own religions. And I mean, it's all about really just like power and separation, division and control. It's very, 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 very heavy and negative and dark. Terrible energy, from slavery to the Holocaust to people sitting in the back of the bus versus the front, to women being owned, to people that were on their period being put in cages out in the middle of nowhere because they're a fucking disgrace. And they're just, I mean, this is how they thought. And while everybody wants to talk about the foundation being Jesus Christ himself, I'm just asking, who in the fuck, honestly, was a positive leader or mentor for these people? Who? Because if you really think about their mentors or their leaders at that time, honestly, like Amelia Braveheart is like the coolest fucking thing that happened. She's the worst one, the one that gets to fly the airplane. You know what I mean? At least she did something positive. You don't remember her fucking rioting. You're not hearing about her killing people, like, who else do you even know? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's other people, but like, I don't know of anything other than Amelia off the top of my head, honestly, like, that was positive. Like, and it's whatever, MTV, that's the next thing I remember. And they actually did, it was better. Do you guys remember Daria? That's how Halo is. She's like, I'll be like, hey girl, how's your day? She's like, it was good. I'm like, even earlier, she was like, walks in, and I know not to ask her because she gets all pissed and shit, but like, right, she comes back down after I stopped the video. I was like, hey, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, it's fine. Okay, whatever. Anyways, during that time, if you guys really, really honestly think about it, they had no good leader. They really didn't. I mean, their fucking president, Lincoln's getting shot. I mean, Martin's getting shot. Fucking Elvis ODs. The drugs are killing people first time ever. They don't even have mental health at this time. They don't have no fucking overdose medicine. They don't have a doctor that has any fucking clue even what to look into when it comes to brain disorders, mental health, nothing. And so what's happening is like they're seeing all these different changes, guys. Babies are being born now with drugs in their system, undeveloped brains. They're having to extend and expand their hospital systems and evolve. They were panicking. Today, because we have the internet, because we have developed systems and policies and procedures based off of these events, guys. Some people, I've asked many people, how do you get your data? Like, how do you collect your data when you are getting these numbers? And they do a variety of different things. And every actual company or business goes with their own strategy. And I learned that again with Oasis. They didn't use any of the strategies that Great Clips use. And Great Clips goes over what strategies they use. And it's just really amazing to sit down and see what people do or don't know, and to be able to be a part of human resources, OSHA, and the schools, and teach these regulations and these laws and these mental health things to everybody. It's a blessing. Being a part of education and being a life skill coach and being a coping skill coach and helping people overcome addiction and mental health and abuse, and even myself, just like being able to open up my heart and truly just be able to be there for people on a level that is quite a bit different than I feel like many counselors can be. Like, they never did go through a lot of these things, and some people will have. But these are like Heather Cantamessa. She runs her own business now. That was my worker. She was a PCAP worker. You guys should definitely look into PCAP if you're a parent and you need any help. 3 years they're on your side, and they just do so much for you. And she was absolutely amazing. And she came from a history that was similar to any of the villains. She had, the same kind of situations and cases and problems, and, she just really, truly understood, and I felt like I could actually trust her. And sometimes that's that's the only reason people are not asking for help. Because they're worried about being judged, and they're worried about losing their kids, and they're scared that because they're with somebody that they might be looked at like a poor parent. They have probably called the police for help, and it ended up just going a whole different direction, because unfortunately there's procedures and policies. And what we're going to go over, you guys, is why things happen and why different policies and procedures are put into place. I worked at the American Diabetes Association, and I also got to work at the WorkSource office. And one of my jobs was to go around and help everybody in the computer lab build resumes and apply for jobs and use the search engine. And I got to teach the resource class, and I got to organize the binders and see what was all there and available. And I was just overwhelmed with hope. And I couldn't believe what I saw and how many short classes, free classes, grants and resource agencies and housing programs and moms and children programs and just different things that were available. And by the end of my stay in Spokane, I never left. And I came up here, handcuffed, pregnant, went to treatment. 6 months later, get out. They say, maybe you think about staying. Sure. Fucking, I don't know. I just did. Go into a halfway house. Obviously, you have to follow rules. You can't smoke cigarettes even and shit. There's steps. I couldn't have a boyfriend there. I spent about a year inpatient, and then I did my outpatient, and I got relocated up here, and I found housing, like, through a program. Same thing, if you work with your counselors and you follow the rules and you stay clean and stay away from your man. I had to leave my man. I had my kids without him there, by myself with my mom. And I named them Dana. And, he came later. And, of course, if you're an addict, you're going to deal with this kind of shit. And he looked at them and, said he wasn't going to claim them as his kids until DNA came back. And they were his, of course. And, these are moments that that even our parents went through, and we do too. Everybody goes through it. Some people have these wonderful celebrations and baby showers and $20,000 venues at their wedding. And some of us never have gotten married and have had our children by ourselves because our baby daddy was with some fucking other chick, and he came back in and didn't even, claim the kids until, he was done being a bitch and was proven. to be the father and shit. You know, and those are the reality of things. And he's dead today. And I have these beautiful, wonderful angels that I wouldn't trade for the world. And I'm not angry at him either. And I know a lot of women out there that really are pissed off, you know, that they went through a breakup, and men too. But at the end of the day, you being mad, it's probably a big part of what drove them farther away from you while they were present. Your anger, literally, it pretty much explains exactly how you treat people. And just watch anybody. I mean, some people just, like, for me, when I start to panic, I'm like, no, you know, and like I say it real fast, and I'll just be like, oh my gosh, like, go get me, like, earlier, Halo sits down and she's like, let's go to the gym. So I look at the clock, for example, and I see I have about 15, 17, maybe maximum minutes. It could have even been 12. And I instantly think I need a cup of coffee before we go. And so that instantly for me shoots up and out of my brain. And now my mother, I'm like, oh, can you make me a cup of coffee? She had just literally sat down. To her, it probably seems like I'm like the minute she comes into the room, I send her out to go do another job. And I know that. I mean, how could you not think like that, you know? And so it's just about being mindful. It's about being aware that, yeah, we do learn wrong habits. We learn poor habits, you know, and we can complain and we can say, well, I never fucking had anybody teach me that. And you can be like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go outside. Like, I hate it when it's hot, okay? So you pick and choose what you do. Know that when you do that, if the worst thing, in my opinion, which I don't feel like should be the worst, but I care more about you than I do me, and which is probably a problem, but my heart's like getting all pissed. It's like, that's not the worst thing. Okay, so for me, I feel like the worst thing about the fact that some people pick and choose what they will or won't do is that probably guaranteed, dude, the universe is going to put that in your path because you said you weren't going to do it. I don't see how they wouldn't. I absolutely don't see how God or the universe wouldn't just put that in your path and just say, okay, well then I hope you, well there's nothing that we're going to really honestly come across and have the opportunity to learn or be a part of that more than likely is not going to build a skill that you're going to need for your fucking Bowser land. So I literally just picture like when it's going well in the Lord of the Rings or even the Wizard of Oz. There's times when they're just like, oh yeah, and they're like, off to see the wizard and the wonderful, and there's like, so when the witch comes down, like that's when you need that skill, bro. And the universe is going to make it to where you're going to realize that you needed it. So that's what I'm trying to prevent for you guys. And another, I'm just going to place these at equal value. Another issue with you saying you're not going to do different jobs is that you're saying that somebody else can do twice the work. That's very inconsiderate. And that is not fair to anybody. You don't know how terrible I feel like that sounds. I feel like everybody should really be focused on doing their part. And just know that no matter how anybody looks at the end of the day, even Robin Williams was really going through it. And we all will, and we all are. You know, even if you're somebody who suffers from anger management and addiction, you got people over here that don't, that are very insecure with themselves, and they're very jealous, and they're envious of beautiful women who suffer from fucking alcoholism and addiction. And they don't, you know, those ones probably don't know how to look beautiful, and they hate beautiful women, and, you know, that's how they are. They sit there and fucking glare, and then you got us over here that fucking could probably put a shirt on and fucking slow down a little bit on all our crazy shit. But, you know, we're sanitary, and we're great cooks, and we can cook, we can do our own yard work. So everybody has different issues, and they also have different skills. And no matter what skill we all have, things are always going to be changing constantly. Like when my life is going well in this area, sometimes, like right now, I guess I'm going through some changes, but like I'm suffering the most. Like I miss my dad, and I noticed that right now, like even when I like if I'm not like when I'm sober and shit, like I literally want to cry a lot, and then my heart is broken over him, and I miss him. And I was just thinking about that actually. That's what made me do this video, but it's like you just want to not feel like that, and I get it. And some of us use sex, and some of us use tequila, and some of us use weed, some of us work, some of us just straight cry. And the truth is that we all are searching for something to feel better, but we have to first figure out at what level we are at already based off of our previous elevations through experience. So whatever trauma you've been through, we're going to have to look into that and just really see how trauma is leveled out and measured. And also, I think that'd be a great start. We need to know at what levels we are at. And this is just now coming to my mind right now, so I'm going to have to actually research it. But I don't really, like, basically, like, if you're somebody who goes and steals cars and you're on a high-speed chase and you're running from the police, that's a fucking very high-leveled elevation. We don't really actually know the number that is. We'd be taking wild guesses. So it's like, we could say, normally people are like, oh, he fucking stole a car and fucking got shot at and, you know, and then fucking flew off a cliff and landed on the other side. We'd be like, that's fucking like level elevation 35, you know what I mean, out of 100. Like, because, you know, maybe if you were in a different situation that was even worse, like, maybe somebody like a fucking tiger was like there and fucking eating your face off and you had to like, or the Saw movie would probably even be bigger than that, like cut your leg off to win, you know, you're like, and then you have people that are like, you're in trouble, like you snuck out and your mom catches you. You would probably, in some people's cases, think that if their husband was sitting there looking at their phone and saw that they were cheating, that is an elevation of a 35 or even 1,000, because to them, to lose their partner or to get caught there, it would be total loss and destruction. To you, a fucking cheetah eating your eyeball out would be worse. They would maybe rather have their eyeball taken than their man. I bet you. And one last thing is that about 80% or so of society is wondering where their true soulmate is and why they don't have one. And I can tell you right now that that's why, right there. Love, you cannot look for. You have to be authentic, and it also includes synchronicity. So the best way that you can think about it is picture yourself just like a young kid on the monkey bars, and you're just going across the monkey bars, and all of a sudden you like fall down and fucking hit little Ricky. And you're like, oh, ouch, I'm so sorry, little Ricky. And he's like, oh, it's fine. And then you look into each other's eyes and you're like, ah, that moment. You have to be your true self. You cannot be looking for love. And you can't just wake up and be like closing your eyes and walking down the street with your eyes closed and you're like, I didn't look for love today, bitch. You were thinking about it. What you need to do is feel content, and you need to feel whole alone. When you can figure out how to take care of yourself by yourself and you don't need another person to come in, you're like, well, it's because, like, you know, ever since George left me, I lost the house, and he left me with all the bills and the debt. Okay, cool. So what did you do about it? Because is this what you're gonna do to your next person? You think your next person doesn't have shit going on? So when they get there, what have you even done other than just talk about the situation? Because how somebody talks about it, how is exactly how they're gonna do. And not only that, but now they're having another person that they're gonna be talking more about, and then they have little Ricky too. So you're actually just doubling up on nothing. So the best way that this person over here can do is literally just listen to what this person's talking about. What are their goals? What are their struggles? Are you going to be able to deal with people in your life that are like, oh, yeah, you know, like, what, do they already have a car? Do they already have a license? Because I can tell you right now, like, if you're the one with the vehicle, you'll be the one driving them around, guaranteed. And they're going to make you feel like they should be driven around. No, that's not your responsibility. Like, this person, they turned 16 a long time ago. Just because you're with people and around people that have a belief system, if their belief system and their mindset isn't working for them and they are not making progress regularly, they need weekly and daily goals. It's okay to take a day off. But no matter what, 5 days a week, guaranteed, 4 at the minimum, And the other 2 or 3 days, they're not spent you just laying on your fucking ass. A real person goes out there and fucking does the yard. They do the laundry, they get the house clean, and they'll be cooking dinner. The fuck you talking about? You're bored. You should never, ever have to come home, and nobody that is home already should have already cleaned. That's a fucking mandatory rule here. Nobody doesn't know. We get shit done. And if you're sitting around and you're just like, you feel like you don't do anything because nobody else is doing anything and it's just a fucking pity party, it's a top-down issue, dude. Take control of your life. And yes, yeah, crappy shit happens. But we're actually the change that everybody has been this whole time hoping to see. And I take that very seriously, and I need your help to do it. So do your part and figure out what areas are we needing some strengthening in, as in what things in your life have power over you. And it can't be a 3D issue. You cannot have like, oh, well, my husband doesn't come home on, like if it's anything you can see or touch, you're not even going to be able to elevate into leadership at this time. You're going to have to serve another round of class. So that's what we're going to do, is we're pretty much just going to go through these classes over the next 3 months, is what I hear right now. So for the next 3 months, we're going to pretty much kind of score it out and just look at everything and just see situation by situation, breakdown by breakdown, whatever the divine kind of puts in my heart to talk about. I don't ever really know what I'm going to talk about. It just comes out and the whole class starts. So I appreciate you guys watching. But once we educate ourselves and we figure out that knowledge is the solution, then you're unlimited. It's all about your life skills and what you have in that tool bag at the time when it goes down. A lot of people don't have self-control. They don't have the ability to stay calm. They don't know survival techniques in the woods. Maybe they don't know, to use a tourniquet to tighten the blood down, Every fucking thing matters. CPR. How to start a fire with stick, Are you somebody that, even drive a car? Do you know how to drive stick shift? Everybody has a skill, and there's so many times when you're like, do you know how to do that? And you know what? They fucking do. And it's that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, Mario, you fucking spare time. Oh my gosh, thank God, I'm so fucking glad you're here. Be that person. Because at some time, and just like all the other times when you feel that despair of loneliness, you don't have to. But what you do have to do is pay attention and not be the one who says, I don't do that, I'm not going to do that. Because you know what? That's the person, when they're run out of gas out there in the middle of nowhere, no signal, that dies by the fucking vulture and gets eaten because you literally have no skill. So, you can either see or be seen, because you're either the predator or you're the prey.